Hey everyone, it's Elo. I hope that you're doing well. Today's video topic is one that I have had on my mind for quite some time now, and it's been on my list of videos to film for a while, and I kind of abandoned it for quite some time because I just wasn't sure, I guess, if it was worth talking about or if I had a way to talk about it that I felt was right. But recently, when I was scrolling through Reddit, I read a post that reignited my feeling that this is a topic that needs to be talked about and is likely interesting for men and women alike. Before I really dive into it, I just want to first say I'm sorry to those who have been waiting for a talking video like this. Last month in December, I did a lot of role plays, and I don't know when the last time I did a talking video was, except for on Patreon, a public one. But I feel like it's been a while, and I'm not gonna lie, that was a monetary necessity. Last month, I was unable to work as much on my writing job as I wanted to because of school, and I needed the income to pay my bills. And unfortunately, the roleplay videos do a lot better in terms of views, but I still think that these videos are the ones that I love recording, I guess, the most, and also, or I guess I should say mainly because of your feedback. Getting to talk to all sorts of people from all over the globe who have similar experiences to me or are being very encouraging, thoughtful, kind. That's my favorite part of having this channel in general. So thank you to those of you who have been waiting and unhappy with my lack of chatty videos. I have a number of topics that I'm really ready to talk about, this just being the one that's most on my mind right now. I also want to say that this should go understood, but my experiences that I'm going to draw from and my perspective is mine. So I'm not at any point in time suggesting that everyone feels the way that I do or that everyone has experienced the things that I have. I do think that a large majority of people have, but I guess let me know if I'm wrong. I'm going to be making blanket statements for the ease of conversation. I'm not going to be taking into account non-binary, trans, or any other, I don't know what is the right way to say that really, but I'm going to be going with the traditional male and female because that is what pertains to this age-old topic. It's not an exclusionary thing, it's just there's not enough data to really include anyone who doesn't identify as male or female into this discussion. So I hope that that's also understood and makes sense, and that those who fall into those categories know that I still love you just as much, and I'm sure that you've had your own experiences that are just as important, and maybe you've had some of these experiences too. So with all of that being said, this topic is going to be a little difficult for me to speak about because it's kind of embarrassing, to be honest. So the Reddit post that I read that kind of annoyed me was essentially stating that females always have to bash one another. One last disclaimer, I don't feel any particular way about the word female, girls, women. They all mean the same thing to me, and I don't feel offended by any of them, so I'm sorry if it bothers you when I use those words. They just don't make a difference to me. I don't mean it in any particular way. I just mean girl, female, one with vagina is my whole point. So however that comes out of my mouth, sorry in advance. So it was talking about women's need to bash on other women. And a lot of the commenters shared similar experiences, and a lot of the times it was males, leaving these comments talking about how their mother or sister or girlfriend or whomever always feels the need to make things uncomfortable when an objectively attractive woman is around. And that part I read and I was like, uh-oh, I definitely have fallen into that a lot myself over the years. But that's not what annoyed me. That's the embarrassing part. The part that annoyed me was how many of the commenters were just blaming women for that habit in a very uneducated way. A lot of it was just saying that girls are catty and feel the need to like belittle others for essentially no reason. And that's what made me really want to revisit this topic, was how many people on that thread truly believed that. I don't really know the demographic of Reddit. I know that in the mid 2000s there was a lot of equating neckbeards to Reddit, and more recently I have had people I know tell me that Reddit is largely liberal males, white liberal males, and I don't have that data. I have not looked up the statistics on who's using Reddit, and I don't know how much that skews the answers, so please don't think that I'm saying that all liberal white males or anyone in general believes these things. It was just really clear that a lot of people felt the same way, and there's still people too, even if they're the scum of the internet or whatever people want to talk down. I'm on Reddit, so we're not all white liberal males. Some of us are white liberal females now. But whatever the case, there's still people, and there's still people who have an opinion, and that opinion may affect someone else's opinion in the greater world. So echo chamber or not, specific demographic or not, I think this conversation is wildly important to all. So it's true, You know, I have certainly been in a position many times where I'm watching a movie with a partner, or I'm out at dinner with a partner, or I'm anywhere with the person that I like or love or am dating or am interested in at the time, and an attractive female may be present, or maybe, you know, in a movie there's a scene or 5 that features women with perfect breasts and really tight waistlines and beautiful flowing hair, or, you know, just Hollywood features, things that your day-to-day woman might not have, and you are witnessing your significant person absorbing that, and it's hard not to get defensive. Same thing in real life, though. You know, some people are genetically just blessed. In a lot of places in the country, there's a lot of women who have surgically altered themselves or gotten filler, or they get, you know, hair extensions, eyelash extensions, whatever. So, you know, there are even some advantages among we common folk. And, you know, some people are just attractive and good for them. Or maybe they have a really fat ass or perfect boobs, or they just look really good in the outfit that they're in. That happens. And again, it's like you're witnessing the person that you want to be attracted to you see this person who you view as attractive, and it's difficult to not say, ugh, you know, her eyebrows are really janked up, or did you see her mouth when she was talking, or God, you know, I would never want to be wearing that outfit, or whatever. We can always come up with something about the person, because people are people, and there's always a flaw to every human, no matter how attractive they are supposed to be. You can always find something that when you point it out, you're like, oh yeah, you know, that isn't super attractive. And it's a skill, I think, that a lot of women have, to very quickly find that thing and make a big deal out of it to their significant other in order to sort of berate the threat and feel better about themselves. I've done that before. I'm not proud of that, and it was really eye-opening for me to read that on the Reddit post, because I was like, yikes, that's really ugly behavior. Like, I don't actually like that, and why do I do that? And I mean, I know, but I hadn't really thought it through and connected it to the other ideas that were on my mind about this topic already. And like I said, a lot of the commenters were just saying like, oh, women are just petty and shitty and insecure and whatever. But I think that it goes much deeper than that, and I think it's important that people understand that and know that. So I don't really know even where to start. I'm just going to try to start at the beginning and hopefully make this make sense altogether. When I was young, let's say 5, 6, 7 years old, I had some girls in my neighborhood who I was friends with, and I wasn't really your typical person because I was attracted to girls, not to boys. So I didn't feel exactly what they felt in that regard, but I was still sucked into the same behavioral patterns because of the media that we were all consuming together. Our favorite movies growing up were Cinderella and Hunchback of Notre Dame and all kinds of Disney princess movies. There were also other, phases and fads that came and went that had essentially an S tier, an A tier, a B tier, etc. Like, you always know who's the hot one. Spice Girls, that was another thing too. Everyone wanted to be posh Spice, Victoria Beckham, because she was the one that was giving off the biggest, like, sexual vibe. And why does a 7-year-old want that? Why does a 7-year-old think it's important to be that one? You're not born thinking those things, and none of us had hit puberty yet, so it wasn't like we had hormones dictating how we felt. And credit where credit is due. I do think that some of this is probably evolutionary in its conception, but in today's day and age, it's just stuff that's left over, in my opinion, that doesn't really apply anymore. So my foot is falling asleep, so I'm gonna move it. Okay, hopefully that'll be better for a little while. So I can distinctly remember all of these rivalries that would be built around who's getting the most attention, is essentially what it boiled down to. One of my neighbors, Christina, was like the alpha. She was the pretty one, but she was also the sporty one, and she was the rebellious one, and she seemed to have all of the qualities that were deemed attractive, and would garner attention from boys especially, but just in general as well. I think that I was on the next tier down, or maybe two. And then there was at least one other girl who was below me, in terms of pretty much everything, like how we were all treated, how we treated each other, all of it. And that's kind of, to me, that's crazy to think that there was a hierarchy like that when we weren't even 10 years old yet. But looking back, it's definitely true, and it wasn't like that in every friend circle I had. At school especially, we were all kind of friends together, so it didn't really feel like any one person was better than the other until about 4th grade, which I guess we were 7 or 8 in 4th grade, so that is still really young. There were 2 girls who came to my elementary school in the 4th grade together. They weren't sisters or anything like that. They just, I guess, knew each other. I don't know why they came to our elementary school. They lived not as close to where our school was, so I feel like they should have been zoned, and probably were zoned, for a different school, but their parents got them transferred into our school for whatever reason. And on the very first day that they were there, everyone was talking about them. They were I can't believe I still remember this, but I do. They were wearing spaghetti strap shirts with a tiny little flower pattern on it that was like white and blue and like a turquoisey color. And they were probably from the Limited 2 or something like that. And I think they had on like light blue pants. But I will just never forget them being in those spaghetti strap shirts with like boob pads, like not fake boobs, but just, girls will know what I'm talking about. Camis used to have like sports bras do. They're just like a piece of foam that's kind of circular a lot of the times that covers your nips, so if you get cold or whatever, they won't be poking through the shirt. And so it gave the illusion of breasts, even though they were both kind of thin as a board. They had interesting names. They were dressed like twins. They came in out of nowhere, and everyone was talking about them. All the boys were talking about how hot they were. All the girls were just trying to like process what the hell was happening. Like, we had our social order already figured out, and then these girls came in out of nowhere and changed it. One of them actually ended up being my like bully throughout middle school and into the beginning of high school. And I don't even know what to say about her, but I'm sure that she had her own problems happening at home for her to be such a horrible human being at that age. But she was terrible, and she thought that she acted like she was the shit, and like nobody was better than her. I would imagine that putting on that persona at school was the only place that she felt capable of being that person. She was probably not a superstar at home, and therefore felt the need to be that way. I don't know for a fact, but that's kind of what makes sense to me as an adult. As for why she felt the need to be so vicious. And I mean, this is the girl who like spearheaded people telling me to kill myself in middle school, and that I was like a beached whale, and like every horrible insult that came my way, she was like the ringleader. Same thing with like getting chat rooms together on AIM, which for you young folk is AOL Instant Messenger. It was like texting for the computer. And they would invite me to like chat. I think this only happened twice, because obviously I realized what was happening after the second time, but you know, and they would all get in there, like 7 or 8 girls, and just shit on me in the chat, like say the meanest stuff to me. And I didn't know how to handle that, and it was similar to the abuse that I was getting at home, so I just felt worthless and awful, and that did increase my need to eventually in my life put other women down when the time came around. But that's only like one element of the whole equation. The other stuff, as I was kind of mentioning, is like media. Most of the storylines had a pretty female who was distressed, and then a handsome male who saved her. the knight in shining armor type thing. It was very pressed on us from a very young age. And just think about what that does to someone. If you grow up and everyone's telling you that you need a husband, and by the way, the only way to get a husband is to charm him, you need to serve him, you need to be attractive for him, you need to not fart for him, you need to learn how to cook for him. Everything in your life that you need to do is in order to acquire a man to take care of you. Which is silly because in that equation, the woman is doing all of the taking care of. But I guess it's more like financially. Or in case you get the vapors. So that's a lot of pressure as a kid. And you know, my parents grew up, their parents had a very 50s mentality. So they were taught gender roles like that. You know, the man is the breadwinner, the first seat of the house, nobody eats until he eats, all that kind of stuff. And that's the household I was raised in. And a lot of girls had at least some of those aspects. It might not have been as severe as it was in my household, but I do think that the man was always supposed to have the respect, and if he spoke, no one else was supposed to speak, that kind of thing. So that's your impression of men, and you need to win one. And then you hang out with the boys at school. I did, because it started early for me with being one of those girls who's just like, yeah, I'm not gonna deal with girls. It didn't help that I liked them like that. So the boys felt easier for me to relate to, because their conversations were more on my pace. Like, I didn't really care as much about nail polish and shopping and those things. And here's what I want to add to this conversation. Not all of those girls cared about those things either. It's what they were told to care about. It's what was given importance and value to them. It was the right thing to do. It was how to survive. Women were supposed to charm men. That's the whole point of existing, essentially. And for example, just to show you how this panned out a lot of the times, you know, my girlfriends in my neighborhood, they were the ones that I probably hung out with most in terms of girls. I had 2 other female friends, but one of them I was like involved with, and the other one was just our other friend. So I don't know what that means, but point being, my girlfriends in the neighborhood, Christina especially, would always need to be the posh spice. She needed to be the prettiest option available. She needed to be the bustiest option available. She needed to be whatever seemed envied in that moment. And I can remember us fighting over which Disney princess we were going to be at my birthday party one year. Some, I guess, teenager came and was giving us face paint, and we got to choose which Disney princess we wanted to be. And I remember Christina telling us that she was the only one who was allowed to be whoever it was she wanted to be. I think it was Esmeralda, because Esmeralda was like the shit at that very moment in time. I think I ended up being Jasmine from Aladdin, but it was like relegated. Like, no one else is allowed to be who I am, because this is my character and I'm the one who gets to be the prettiest, kind of thing. And it's like, man, it was, first of all, it was my birthday party. Second of all, it's like, we can all be the same princess. Like, I didn't give a crap. It was just face paint. It wasn't like we were actually becoming princesses. But it played out that way in our fantasy games too, you know? She was always the dominant one. She always got the lion's share of things. She always would put down the other girl that I was mentioning, who was a very nice soul. You know, she was just sweet, and she didn't know what to do either about this kind of thing. Yeah, so, but I knew Christina first, and I think that's why she kind of had me as her, like, right-hand man, was because we were already friends before we branched out to the rest of the neighborhood. And despite spending so much time together, eventually Christina stopped hanging out with us all together. The other girl and I continued hanging out, and we made friends with two other girls who moved into the neighborhood as well. And we never heard from Christina again in that sense. Like, she was never our friend again. Because she felt like she was above us, better than us, too embarrassed to be seen with us. And you know, her brother felt that way too. One of her brothers liked me growing up, and we were really close friends, and I knew he liked me, and he was, I think he was my first boy kiss. And when we ended up in school in the 6th grade, he didn't want to date me because he was embarrassed of me, despite liking me. And it's just so strange. Years later, I actually got a drunk phone call from someone else I was friends with, who was there with this boy who was like crying that she should have dated me. This was like years later, that it was a mistake for him to like ignore me like that and drop me as a person. I know that I was probably just a symbol of like childhood and innocence and stuff, so he was probably going through some other shit. But you know, that's how deep these things ran between the boys and girls. Like, the boys needed to be seen with the top girl, the girls needed to be seen with the top boy, and that was just it, you know. And it continued that way in the movies and TV shows that became popular as we grew up. Always. There were very few characters who had archetypes different than that, and females got very competitive very fast because we were taught that you need to go out and woo the man. Like, that's your goal. And you don't want to be seen with the ugly one. You don't want to be seen with the short one. You don't want to be seen with the fat one. You need to be with like the cream of the crop. And I think that's part of the reason why this is a sidebar, but I think part of the reason why so many women today have standards that are mismatched with who they are is because it would embarrass them or shame them to accept being average, which is really sad, because if you're with someone, you know, obviously you should be with them because you like them, because their personality suits you, because they make you laugh. A million reasons other than attractiveness, essentially, is what it boils down to. So yes, when I see an attractive woman, and obviously I'm looking in that way, not, I don't mean that I'm like always on the hunt for a girl. I just mean that when I look at a female, I have the same ability to like think of that person in a sexual way, and I think that a lot of females do, just because it's easy to decide who's attractive and who's not attractive. Like, I think that comes pretty naturally to people in general. I hope that makes sense and I didn't mess that up, because I definitely didn't like the way I worded that. But point being, if I look at an attractive female, I know what I feel. Okay, I know if I'm like, damn, she's hot. Like, I feel that, and I don't want the person who I want to think I'm hot feel that way about someone else, because then then they're a threat. And that's why we put other women down, is because it's an immediate way to stifle the threat. Is it illogical? To an extent, but not always, you know. Men, and again, this is a blanket statement, I don't care if you leave me a comment saying this is not how you are, that's fine. I'm not saying everyone's like this, but generally speaking, men have a much stronger sex drive because their evolutionary purpose is to spread their seed and make more humans. Okay, that's the whole point. Everything else we've created, but women are there to bear the children, which takes a lot longer. Men are there to spread the seed, which is fast. Okay, so depending on their primal brain versus their logical brain versus their heart, some men may be more inclined, and some women may be more inclined to hop to the next best thing, to cheat, to lie, to do things that are unsavory while you're in a relationship with them, things that would hurt you and make you feel betrayed or less than. And who wants to feel that way? You know, everyone wants to be accepted and loved unconditionally and treated well. So if I feel like I have the opportunity to make my partner more interested in me, that's what comes natural. Whether it's cooking, you know, learning to cook something that he really likes or she really likes, whether it's satisfying at the home or in the bedroom or with job, with social things, like, we're always geared to serve in that regard and not to make decisions first and foremost for ourselves. So it's very easy to say, well, you shouldn't be with someone who would do that to you, or like, do you really want to have a relationship where you're always worried if, you know, your partner is going to cheat on you? Like, of course not. Of course not. But that's easier said than done. A lot of the times it's easy to just say, like, yeah, in a perfect world it would be great if. But we've been so wired to fight one another for top pick. And like I said, part of that probably is evolutionary, you know. You're attracted to the person who you think is going to provide best for you. So a lot of women who want taller men, there's probably a reason. for that. Not just a status looks thing, but they may have something inside of them from ancient times past that says, oh, the tall person's good for me because he can grab the bananas off the tree. Whatever. Like, there are reasons why people may have preferences in that regard. Or like bigger, you know, I've dated and been with a number of larger folks, and it's, I guess, a protection and comfort thing that makes me see that as an attractive thing, not a disgusting thing like some people think. At the same time, I've dated people who are very fit, and they have that more cheetah-like quality. Like, okay, they can kill something, or they have fast reflexes, or they're able to walk super, super far. You know, like, all of that stuff sounds really stupid, but it's just programmed into us as humans. So there's nothing we can really do about it. However, this whole situation with women hating one another and being jealous of one another instead of being supportive of one another is taught. It is. I mean, change my mind in the comments below if you want to. I think that it is taught, though. It's a learned behavior. It's a problem, I think, and I'm glad that it's like people are more aware of it now, and we're starting to see it and try to fight it. And, you know, even Disney has movies now like Moana or Frozen or whatever, where the princess fights for herself and doesn't need no man, and that's great. But I do think that in the home, in a lot of ways, women still teach, and men still teach their children those like benchmarks. And I've heard a lot of the main ones, I guess. Like, I can remember hearing my mom tell me that the reason not to have sex with a boy was because he's not gonna buy the cow when he can get the milk for free. What about me? What if I like giving the milk? Like, why am I a cow? The whole thing just is... What? Okay. Yeah, I guess, but like, that doesn't mean that all men are out there just looking to bone people and run. Like, that's not... They have brains too, and they make decisions that don't necessarily align with their primitive needs. Like, it just makes it seem like women can never satisfy a man. Like, there's nothing we can do unless we are perfect to a T. And even then, there's always the chance that someone better will walk by and take them. That's how we're raised to think. Or how my generation, I think, mainly was raised to think. And it's sad, you know. And in my adulthood, I don't have... Do I have female friends? I mean, the girls in my class I'm kind of friends with, but we're all at very different stages of life. Only one of them is roughly, or is my age, I think, and she was the last one to warm up to me easily, because we were similar in our status, in that even though there's only 2 guys in our class, and I'm definitely not interested in either of them, and I'm sure she's not either, she still had that edge towards me. Like, I might knock her off of her pedestal, whatever she is in her mind. And that's sad. And I actually really like her, and like we get along now, and I feel like we've come to a better place. But I still don't think she would ever hang out with me outside of school. I don't think that she would be willing to call me a friend. And I think that it's like that a lot. And I want friends, you know. I constantly watch like Sex and the City and other shows and movies that have friend circles in them, especially female friend circles. And like, I want that. Jasmine is the only person I have who fulfills that, and we've always just been really chill and cool with one another, but she's kind of the exception in that regard, and that relationship is the exception. It's super hard to make female friends, especially now, because everyone's paranoid and insecure and worried about their place in the world. And am I married? Do I have kids? Am I hitting all the right check boxes by the right age and that kind of thing? And it's just sad. I think honestly, a lot of the times when I see women who look kick-ass, I'm kind of happy for them because they're very inspiring for me. Like, whenever I'm feeling like I'm slacking on my diet and nutrition and exercise and whatnot, there's a blog that I go to that is filled with pictures, like sexy pictures of women. It's a fitness inspiration blog, so it's not like porn, but just pictures of women that I'm like, damn, I want to look like that, you know. So I'm not threatened by them. I admire them and I want to be like them, and it's just hard to accept being average. It's hard to accept, like, to have your ego deflated by some stranger. Unless you're really like secure in yourself, and or you're asexual, you're not concerned about that kind of thing. Even then, there are situations where you can be very insecure. But I mean, in terms of like mating, because I think that that is the largest proponent to this whole situation. I think that pretty much everyone is just on guard at all times, and I think it would be cool to stop doing that and instead have more of a community among women where we do cheer each other on and we point out one another's good things that we like about each other. Don't judge how we look so quickly because someone's doing it to you too, you know. Like, if I sit here and shit on someone's outfit, someone's shitting on my outfit too. Like, there's no point in that. If we all just stopped doing that, we would all feel less insecure and more supported by one another. So I don't think that it's just women are petty and shitty and whatever, and jealous. I think it's been trained into us that we need to protect what we want to be ours. We need to be perfect in order to be worthy of love, and that's really sad. And like I said, everyone wants to be loved unconditionally and accepted. So put two and two together, you know. If women have to be perfect to be loved, when you see someone who makes you feel imperfect, you want to get rid of that because it's taking away your chance at being loved. That's really sad and not true and something that I think more people need to understand so that we can start changing it. And I have started making a conscious effort to be kind, even to the hired titties that I see in movies. I actually recently watched Wolf of Wall Street with my ex. Neither of us had seen it in a while, and we were bored. Dog hair. And we were bored, and even though he's not my person anymore, still, since he's like a male, it would normally just be programmed into me to get really tense and uncomfortable seeing all of that stuff that's in that movie, which there's a lot. And I practiced not doing that. In that low-key environment, I held it together. Every time I had something like a bad feeling or a bad thought come up, I squashed it and reasoned with myself and told myself how much I didn't like that behavior, that I don't want to be that person. And it got so much easier even over the course of those like 3 hours. It was like I complimented one of the like hookers by the end of the movie. I was like, man, she has really nice, I don't remember what, or I really like her outfit, or I don't remember what it was, but I said something nice about one of them, and it felt good. It felt really good not to see them as a threat, and there was no tension in the room. And usually that shit is like palpable because you get so uncomfortable, and then the person or people around you notice how uncomfortable you are just because of your energy. Even if they don't see your body language, they kind of feel it, and then they get uncomfortable, and it's just a whole shitty cycle. And it felt so much better to just exist and be like, yep, that exists and I exist, and that's fine. If somebody who I find attractive finds that attractive, well, so do I. So what's the difference? Like, I'm not about to go try to find one of those hookers and date them. They're just women on a movie that are, getting paid to be naked. Like, that's their choice, and so what? Like, it's not going to change anything in my immediate life to see that. And most men watch porn anyway, whether you want them to or not, whether you're willing to do everything they want or not. Like, that's just kind of a part of it for a lot of them. And women watch porn too, and it's like, okay, I can't watch porn if I'm telling you I don't want you to watch porn. Like, that's a whole, there's a lot of hypocrisy in it, but it feels justified because of the threat situation. But it just felt really good to like accept normalcy, and like, I'm not that unhappy with how I look anyway. Like, in terms of being a normal human being, it could be way worse. I could have plenty of things that I don't want, and I don't. Like, I should be really thankful for how I look and the things I like about myself. And I think that it's a much prettier way to be anyway, to just be at peace with those things, because you can't change them, and it just gives you a power, I guess, that you think you're creating when you shit on those women, when you put someone down for no reason. That's not actually power. Power is just sitting back and being okay that this other person is existing and that you're existing. And I think that people will find you a lot more attractive doing that than being a bitch. So that is my 2 cents on this topic. I'm probably forgetting things as always, but I'm interested to hear what you all have to say, what your experiences are like. And I would urge you, whether you're male or female, to try just being content in yourself. Try thinking about the assets that you do have naturally. Try thinking about the fact that these things exist, whether or not you put them down. And is that really who you want to be? Do you really want to be that person who is just sitting there shitting on people all the time? Like, maybe you do, and if you do, that's fine. But I certainly don't, and I can tell you now that it feels really good to not be that person. It feels very powerful to be okay, and I feel like I'm going to be a better advocate for other girls now, because I don't feel as threatened by them. They have their life and I have mine, and I can't control any of it. It just is what it is, and it's a waste of time trying to make it how you want it, because it's not gonna be. So thank you for watching and listening. Like I said, I have a few more of these topics that are really important to me right now that I'm gonna hopefully be filming by the end of the month and uploading. So stay tuned, and I'll talk to you later.